The world was so much better back then. I'm living in 2024 and most iPad kids spend their days on TikTok watching brain rot like Skibbity Toilet Riz or Edging Streaks. If not that, they're on YouTube listening to modern philosophers, Logan Paul and KSI. Before then, begging their parents to get them the latest Prime bottle or the next garbage product those two make. This time, the duo teamed up with the fake nice guy Mr. Beast to promote Lunchly, a supposed healthier alternative. Like, come on bro, stop capping. How can hyper-processed food be remotely good for kids? I don't care how drippy that cheese is. If that's not bad enough, KSI then violated our eardrums by releasing new music. At the very least, my eardrums can now no longer hear the talk to a girl yap. Imagine if she starts making music. I might have to take a long walk off a short pier. Why the hell would I want any of that or a Lunchly when I grew up on Dino Nuggets, Cosmic Brownies, Trix Yogurt, Kids Cuisine, Hello Panda, Smiley Fries, Bagel Bites, and Scooby-Doo snacks? I don't know the nutritional value of these, but at least they never lied to me and would always make me smile. With this, I'd pair it with a Capri Sun or Sunny D, maybe that heavenly blue Gatorade or a High C before turning on the TV to watch some real good stuff. I'm talking about peak Nickelodeon, Disney, Cartoon Network, PBS, and Kubo, all in the palm of my hands. Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, Danny Phantom, Avatar, Phineas and Ferb, Johnny Test, OG Pokemon, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Little Einstein, OG Teen Titans, Tom and Jerry, Wild Kratts, Arthur Rupert, Curious George, and a whole lot more. Incredible shows that taught me how to be a better human. Maybe play some songs on an MP3 if I'm feeling bored. On my rotation for sure, Prime Bruno Mars, Grenade, She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5, Umbrella by Rihanna, Somebody That I Used to Know. Some other songs, Haru Haru and Wedding Dress. If you know, you know. What you should know about though, the best school days. Them field trips. A few days in advance, they'd have your parents sign a paper allowing you to go. My mom always signed and I can't imagine how miserable I'd be if she didn't. That long bumpy bus ride with the homies, staring down at all the tiny cars. Before going about on a day of adventure at a nature reserve, a strawberry farm, roller coasters, the zoo, theaters, museums. At some point midway, it was time for lunch. Everybody's go-to was the OG Lunchables. Easy to eat and for some reason tasty. Now, my poor self usually brought packed home food, but one of my friends, he had those Subway subs. Not just any sub, the legendary $5 Footlong. You can't even get a 6-inch for that price anymore in this economy. I'm probably going to go the rest of my life without ever seeing that ad with the $5 Footlong song ever again. Something else I'll never see on TV anymore. After a long week at school, you'd go to bed on Friday knowing tomorrow will be the best day of the week. Those Saturday cartoons used to make life so much more enjoyable. I would literally wait through a whole week of school just to watch Justice League, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Dragon Ball Z, etc. Dragon Balls might be the worst thing to watch weekly though. They'd edge me every week with cliffhangers and episodes where hardly anything happens. Goku was literally charging up half the time. Still a goated show though, that at least never made me waste money, which I can't say for Yu-Gi-Oh! After every episode, I'd beg my dad at Walmart near the checkout lines to get me a pack of cards on display. It wouldn't have even been so bad in our finances if I took better care of them. I was only collecting them back then because they looked cool. I didn't even know how to play or anything about mint condition. Anyway, after enjoying the early morning Saturday cartoons, there was usually nothing good on TV afterwards. But you know, I'd always had the DVD player ready with a wide range of movies on deck. Some of the old classic Disney stuff like Finding Nemo, Ratatouille, and WALL-E were always on rotation. Crazy how hard the company has fallen off. Those movies were so good, I'd sit there holding my bowels just to make sure I got through all my favorite scenes. Eventually, I'd go number 2 and then return without continuing the movie. Instead, I'd be watching that thing move around the screen and hoping it hits the corner. I've probably only truly seen it happen perfect once in my lifetime. I got most DVDs from the discount store, but my childhood was also near the end of Blockbusters and DVD rentals. That incredible feeling of walking around a big store that held movies and cartoons from all decades. The boundless options to choose from. Only thing better was going to Toys R Us as a kid around Christmas time. It's every kid's greatest dream. The warmth, the bright aisles, the smiles, the holiday spirit, and the endless toys to choose from. Don't even get me started on Chuck E. Cheese and the 99-cent store. God, I wish those stores were still around. Some more things that have changed in my life. I haven't picked up a book in ages. Nowadays, I only do it when it's mandatory or when I need to write an essay on it. I swear, reading some children's book used to be one of the coolest things growing up. Grabbing a new Diary of the Wimpy Kid book or The Magic Treehouse. I'd spend hours after school looking for them at a library and reading them at home. A bonus was that we could take tests on those books at school for points. I used to be one of those top kids in my class that would occasionally flex and get rewards. Even the books the teachers made us read back then in class were better. Rolling Thunder, Here's My Cry, Hatchet, Charlotte's Web, Where the Red Fern Grows. Certified classics that made 5th grade me bawl my eyes out. Speaking about books, who can remember those Scholastic book fairs? The first thing that comes to mind about those is the color red and those fire pamphlets they used to hand out for us to order books. You already know I was ordering something each time. Maybe Captain Underpants, some toys, and the legendary Guinness Book of World Records. And no, I wasn't a nerd as a kid. I'd never read Harry Potter. To get these books, sometimes I had to give my parents some extra motivation. Maybe by showing them the good grades I've been getting, or just straight up begging. This applied for books, but also for treats as well. Y'all remember screaming every time you heard the ice cream truck and the songs they'd play? I would always beg for $1 before running out of the house smiling as I stared at the unlimited options in front of me. Sometimes I'd see an ice cream truck when going with my mom to pick up my sisters from high school. Now, as for the ice cream I chose, the safe pick would often be that SpongeBob bar, the ice cream sandwich, or the strawberry shortcake. But my personalized choice, I'd often get those orange push-up bars and something called popsicle lemon shots. I think they're discontinued, but it was a container that had little sour green balls inside. I started messing with those after my neighbors got it and let me try some. Begging for ice cream and books were honestly pretty easy. One was cheap and the other was educational. Toys, on the other hand, were the real hard play that took the most begging. Like seriously, it's like a money vacuum since kids are breaking and swallowing them within a week. I remember myself always wanting a brand new sword, some cars, or maybe a light-up toy. For sure though, any boy my age had to have these next two items, an Omnitrix and Power Ranger figurines. Bro, I used to bring that watch to school to show off. It would yell the names of the aliens like Heatwave and projecting their image onto a wall. Power Ranger figurines were the best things ever though. They used to be characters in my mini battles as a kid. My favorite Ranger was always the red. For some reason, I only remembered having a white and yellow toy. But these two were my heroes that would fight against the numerous other villain figurines I had. I carried them along with me on car rides to the grocery store, the library, and slept by my side. Two of the best friends I ever had. Even now, I'll never understand why Andy let his friends go to that bratty kid. Something else a kid like me had to ask for was a DS. I never actually got it until I got sick. The story was I was playing outside one night, and the next day I must have had a fever. One of my core memories as a kid was being in my mom's arms, feeling so cold and barely awake, as she rushed me into the emergency room where it was said I had pneumonia. She stayed with me every day until I got well. Moms really are the best things in the world. Back on topic though, everyone was sad, even my dad, who one day promised me he'd buy me a DS after I was released from the hospital. And sure enough, he did, and I treasured that blue DS with my life. It still works to this day. The best game was obviously Pokemon Platinum. I maxed out Infernape, caught Dialga, and beat all the gyms. This was only possible since I'd be up all night past my bedtime playing this thing. Even when my mom came into the room to check on me, I'd hide that thing under the pillow and pretend to sleep, especially if it was an intense battle. Ugh, good times. Then I'd have to wake up the very next day and head off to school. I remember on those really cold mornings, I'd be blowing into the frigid air with the boys and pretending that we were smoking. For recess, we'd engage in the most intense, heart-wrenching, and humiliating battles. The marble game. The first one who gets it loses their marble. At that point in time, it felt like you were being banished to the Shadow Realm every time you lost, especially if you had a favorite marble. I remember the Sea Turtle, the Fiesta, and the Dragonfly were so popular. Teachers also liked them as well and would fill up a jar each time the class was good, before handing out rewards. My parents never knew where to buy them, so the first marbles I got my hands on were the ones I randomly found out on the playground. This was during my childhood, so finders keepers was still a thing, and I took full advantage of that. Anything cool I saw near the neighbor's yard or at school was going into my collection. The other go-to pastimes during recess? Tetherball, handball, foursquares, and tag. Tetherball was just unfair whenever someone was taller. During foursquare, people used to cheat all the time, saying the ball landed in the line or serving to the side. Handball especially was the best for me, even despite sometimes coming home with scraped hands and knees. Slices were so OP, but they hurt so much, whether you did them or someone else used it on you. Apart from that, kids used to snack during recess and walk into class with Cheeto fingers, or maybe Mama fingers. We used to crush those noodles up and spray that seasoning packet on them. Some kids brought lime to the mix. We'd pour some in each other's hands like street dealers. Some other things, I'm pretty sure all the boys hated the girls and vice versa. It had to have been a facade. I used to have a big crush on a girl from kindergarten to 3rd grade. One time I was sent to the office with her and all the other kids were jeering. A 7-year-old me was making a stone face and all, but I was freaking out inside. Not just because I'm with my crush, but if the other kids found out, they'd be singing about me and her sitting on a tree and kissing if they did. Something else every boy had pretended to hate? That Justin Bieber dude. I swear, bro was the most hated person by every elementary boy, and he truly wasn't even that bad. It was mass hysteria, since everyone would dogpile on any kid that said they liked him. To be honest, I actually like the song Baby to this day. I also really liked how before each break like spring, winter, or Thanksgiving, the class would throw a party with movies like Kung Fu Panda and a bunch of snacks. I remember one time my mom brought in egg rolls, which were a huge hit with the class, and even my teacher loved them. Something everyone didn't like, those big mile runs near the end of the year where we ran multiple laps around the school. I swear, those were a pain in the you-know-what. On the way home from school, if my mom and I were talking, I'd often try to balance myself on the sidewalk ledge. Don't know why, but that was so much harder to do as a kid. If we were driving home on a rainy day, I'd just stare out the window before eventually choosing a raindrop that I wanted to win the race. Also, who can forget coming home and telling their parents what they did that day? Also yelling, "Look at me, Mom," as I showed her something I learned to do in school. Sometimes it'd be the dumbest thing ever, like making fart sounds with my armpit. Sometimes right after school, I had to go through every kid's worst nightmare, either the dentist or the doctor. I always asked if I was going to get a shot or remove a tooth, which led to the worst lies my parents have ever told me. Especially sitting in the front room and hearing some kids in the back crying about the horrors with the nurse. I'd be trying to ignore the sounds as I played with that one toy. It's like a mini wire roller coaster, but for wooden balls and cubes. My mom obviously tried to tell me not to play with those. Knowing kids and how sick they get, those things were probably dirtier than a French river. The grocery store trips after school were also pretty cool. That's when I was able to ask for most of my favorite snacks. What I hated though was when we'd get near the register, and then for some reason every time, Mom suddenly remembers she forgot one random item. Suddenly me, a nervous, penniless kid, has to stare in silence at the cashier scanning our food. On a lucky day after school, maybe I'd get to go somewhere chill like the park. I'd also get to equip the most OP weapon as a kid, the legendary big stick from the park. I use that thing as my sword, my magic wand, and sometimes as an imaginary gun. Maybe at home, sometimes the neighbors would ask if I wanted to have a water battle, featuring water balloons and water guns. I'll tell you, those were some of the best battles of my life, especially landing clean water balloon headshots and weaving attacks like Muhammad Ali. I can't remember the last time I did something like this as an adult. The hassle of having to take a shower, you know? Some final things to touch on. Whenever I was a naughty boy, I had timeouts like any other kid. I also would get spankings like with the plastic clothes hangers or a feather duster. I remember always crying so much afterwards as my mom told me to eat my food. Like, I'm trying to put the food in my mouth, but my vision is getting blurry and I'm hiccuping and doing that double inhale. After the meal, I was so emotional. I'm packing my things and announcing to my parents I'm running away. I'm telling them to not even think about going after me as I take a grand journey of 20 steps from the house, and then beg to go back inside once it gets dark. On a brighter note, as a kid, bubbles were the coolest thing. I'd always try to make the biggest bubble ever to show my mom and try to get the bubble to stand on the stick. Also, anyone ever play those wild tangent games, especially the free demo of Fate? I'd max out mage stats and would summon 6 wolves at a time, just because that game was so creepy. I also always played Cartoon Network games, especially the Ben 10, Teen Titan, and Billy and Mandy games. That one where the Titans are chibis and you can switch between the 5 of them. I always hated how that website wanted you to download some kind of Flash plugin to play some games. Oh, Club Penguin and Funbrain 2. Not too sure about other PCs, but I remember my sisters would be shutting down from the heat all the time. Like in the middle of games. Then I'd have to boot the thing back up and see the green Windows XP field. This was back when there were box monitors and TVs. And last but not least, YouTube was so different back then. It was filled with parodies, homemade skits like Naiga Haiga, and who could forget the Naruto AMVs? Super motivational and emotional to 6-year-old me. All is to say, nostalgia is a very beautiful and painful thing. The world I once knew seems gone now when that innocent young boy trying to learn right from wrong and how the world works no longer exists. All I can do, along with many other people, is put more effort into the future. I hope everyone can work to make the world a better place where kids can be their innocent selves and happy. That starts with removing bad influences like the 2 aforementioned at the start, and eradicating creeps from the world like Drake and the dude with too much baby oil.